And now to introduce our next inductee, Brad Smith, Chairman and CEO of Intuit.
Thank you, Alex. Good evening, everyone. It is my distinct honor and privilege to have been asked by Eileen Bocce Campbell and her family to say a few brief comments tonight about her loving husband and my dear friend, Coach Bill Campbell. Bill was one of those special people, that rare individual who made an impact on everyone he met. It seems that no matter where you go in the Valley or elsewhere, you meet someone who was affected by Coach Bill Campbell. They seem to open up the conversation by saying something like, he coached my son or daughter, he made a donation to my program or my school, I once heard him speak at an event, or something else that they may have been experienced that had some involvement with Bill Campbell, and they go on to tell you how he changed their life. Well, I'm one of those people who considers himself lucky to have been affected and improved by Bill Campbell. For me, he was a mentor, he was a coach, he was a standard that I try to live up to every single day. But most importantly, Bill Campbell was my friend. I believe the reason why Bill has had effect on so many people is because Bill Campbell truly cared. No matter who you were, you could be from a big city or a small town, from a famous company or a startup, you could be an athlete, you could be someone who just worked every single day at whatever your craft was. Bill had a gift for listening and letting you know that he cared about you as a person. I can vividly remember over a decade ago when I was asked to step into the role of CEO of Intuit, and Bill had been my coach and was the chairman of the board. And I sat with him nervously the night before, and I said, Bill, what will be different? And what Bill began with was, let me tell you what won't be different. You're still going to have to work hard, and I'm going to hold you accountable for great results. Bill had a very high bar for performance, but then his voice softened. And he looked me in the eye and he said, but I'll tell you what will be different is something you won't fully appreciate until you sit in the seat. Every night when you go to bed and you're tucking yourself into bed, I want you to think about all the employees who work in this company and all the lives we touch. And I want you to think about how they're feeling this evening. And I want you to tuck them into bed with you. That is how Bill thought about it. That's how Bill lived his life. Every individual mattered. It's fair to say the reason why Bill Campbell was so successful in business was because he was so successful in life. Bill was known to greet you with a warm hug. Bill was a champion of women and diversity before others were talking about it. Bill believed in fighting for a cause greater than yourself, and Bill believed that life was a team sport, and a player that made the team great was worth more than simply a great player. These values and behaviors burned so bright in Bill that they left an indelible mark on the world and everyone who ever came in touch and in contact with Bill Campbell. He was an original, he was authentic, and he always remained true to who he was, and he left the world and everyone around him better as a result. The only thing Bill ever asked any of us to do was to pay it forward. And for those in the room who knew anything about Bill Campbell or met him, you know one thing for certain. He hated attention. He avoided the press. He did not want any recognition. And I have a feeling tonight he's sitting in heaven and he's cursing me at this moment. Not that Bill was known to curse or anything. But I would rather believe that Bill's smiling on us, his people, his valley, his team, and the fact that we did become better versions of ourselves because we met Bill Campbell. Ladies and gentlemen, in honor of my friend, please roll the video in honor of Bill Campbell. Thank you.
I was shopping for the CEO to replace me, and John Doerr's first suggestion was, you've got to meet Bill Campbell. So we went, had lunch together, and I admit I left unimpressed, because he didn't strike you as a profound business thinker. He was not deeply technical. Well, he wasn't technical at all. He was not an idea person. He was plain spoken. In fact, he kind of almost mangled some of his words or sentences. And so I kept looking.
Bill's a sort of a regular guy. You know, he would confess to being a hard ass, and it's sort of the way he grew up, and it's the way he was raised. I mean, he was a street fighter in a lot of ways too, and he was a little guy though, but he was like a Tasmanian devil.
So John said, well, go back, spend another time with Bill. And then I could feel that he started growing on you, the way he grew on all of us. Because Bill is all about people. He is about the people side of leadership. And it takes time to connect to the humanity, the profound humanity that is Bill, and the profound humanity that is leadership as Bill practices it and as Bill coached it.
Bill is known through Silicon Valley for being the coach of Silicon Valley. And this is really justified. It started with the fact that he was a football coach at Columbia. And we used to always laugh about this because no matter how much he accomplished, every article always seemed to start former football coach Bill Campbell. But it really evolved into him being a coach of leaders in Silicon Valley.
Bill Campbell was the greatest coach, executive coach, any kind of coach that ever lived. Together, the companies he coached are worth more than $1 trillion today. His impact across our industry is indisputable, whether it was with Steve Jobs and Apple, or Google and Larry and Sergey and myself, or the many other companies that he served.
You know, I got my first MBA at Harvard, and I got my second MBA from Bill.
Bill really kind of understood what it meant to run a company in the right way. And so when you think about the company, you know, Apple, Google, Amazon, the guys he's worked with, it means that Silicon Valley's impact on the world and society is just much better than it would have been otherwise, because, you know, for the most part, we do things the right way, and I just don't know that it would have happened that way without him.
Bill led the people to come to see the right answer. And that made the modern Intuit work. I know it's true that the modern Intuit would not be here if it wasn't for what Bill did in his tenure as CEO.
He had this ability to make you feel like he was your best friend, when in fact he was best friends with 100 people who he mentored and developed, not just in business, but also on the football field and also among the community that he lived and the places he worked.
He grew up in a little steel town of Homestead, Pennsylvania, where his family really didn't have much. His dad was a principal of a school, and he worked part-time in the mills. If you ever saw the movie The Deer Hunter and realized how depressed that was, that community was one community over from Homestead. And so he felt a real obligation and an affection for all the people and what was going on in Homestead. So he went back there regularly, and he took a bunch of us back there with him. But he quietly put money into renovating the football field or the gymnasium, or put computers in the classroom. And these are kids that would never have that sort of an opportunity. And Bill did it without any fanfare. Matter of fact, anybody who tried to give him some recognition, he would just say, "It's not about me." And he'd get mad at him.
So what qualities made Bill such a leader? I'd say he summed it up in a phrase that your title makes you a manager, but your people make you a leader. A lot of people think coaching is about the advice you get from a coach. But the other and equal half of coaching is how you perform for the coach.
People would run through walls for him, not just the ones running technology companies, but of the kids he coached in 7th and 8th grade football on the peninsula. When they all graduated in high school, 75% of them said the most significant thing that happened to them when they were in school was being coached by Bill Campbell.
And that's the way Bill was. He got under your skin in a positive way where you were doing the best you could ever do for him. And this was true even if he was delivering bad news, even if he was giving you tough love or real criticism, which he never prettied up. He was blunt. He told you exactly how he was thinking. No gussying up or cosmetics. This was leadership at the gut, the human level. And Bill's the best I've ever seen at that.
He also was a great organizer. His education was in economics. So he understood process. He understood governance. He understood the qualities that it took to not only make a a kid's sports practice work well, but also how it would make a company work well.
He listened carefully. He figured out what your problem was and how to solve it. And the fact that he respected everyone and listened to them so carefully made him an extraordinarily gifted thinker about people and organizations.
I'd say the essence of leadership is separate from title or position or authority. The essence of leadership is when none of those are applying, when none of those are a factor, who do people turn to for leadership? They turn to Bill Campbell. That's why he is so right, his memory is so right to be honored by our award tonight.
Please welcome Bill's wife, Eileen Boche Campbell. Eileen?
On behalf of the Campbell family, I want to thank you all for keeping Bill's spirit alive. And thank you to Brad for telling Bill's story and for the Bay Area Council for honoring him in front of all you wonderful people. Thank you.